Julian Hayes straightened his formal diplomatic uniform as the airlock hissed open. 20 years of diplomatic service hadn't prepared him for this moment, humanity's first official meeting with an alien civilization. The Dravarians had made contact 6 months ago, their massive ships appearing at the edge of the solar system with a simple message: "We wish to talk." Space Station Horizon, orbiting Mars, had been designated as the meeting point. Julian took a deep breath as the alien delegation entered. The Dravarians stood nearly 7 feet tall, their iridescent scaled skin shimmering under the station's lights. Their forearms ended in 3-fingered hands, and their faces featured 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern.
Ow!
"Welcome to Space Station Horizon," Julian said, performing the practiced bow that xenolinguists believed would show respect. "I am Diplomatic Officer Julian Hayes, representing the United Earth government." The lead Dravarian, adorned with elaborate metallic decorations, stepped forward. "I am Kresner, voice of the Dravarian collective." The translation device at Julian's ear converted the series of clicks and whistles into English. "You come to assess your species." Something about the phrasing made Julian uneasy, but he maintained his diplomatic smile. "We've prepared quarters for your delegation and arranged a series of cultural exchanges." As Julian led the aliens through the station, he noticed how the human crew reacted, some with awe, others with barely concealed fear. Station Commander Petra Novak walked alongside him, her military posture rigid with tension. "They requested access to our propulsion research labs," she whispered. "I've limited their clearance, but they're insistent." Julian frowned. That wasn't part of the agreed agenda. In the station's conference room, displays showcased Earth's history, achievements, and cultural diversity. The Dravarians seemed particularly interested in military footage, historical documentaries about World War II, modern naval exercises, and space defense simulations. "Your species fights itself?" Kresner asked, all 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Our past contains conflict," Julian admitted, "but we've learned from it. The United Earth government formed after we realized cooperation brought greater benefits than competition." Kresner made a sound the translator couldn't interpret. "Fascinating. A species that restrains its natural impulses." The first day of talks proceeded cautiously. Julian felt the Dravarians were holding back, revealing little about their own civilization while absorbing everything about humanity. That night, he reviewed his notes with Dr. Hannah Yoshida, the xenoanthropologist assigned to the diplomatic team. "They're assessing us," Hannah said, her brow furrowed. "Not as equals, but as what?" Julian prompted. "As potential threats. Or resources." Hannah's fingers tapped nervously on the table. "Their language contains hierarchical structures we don't fully understand. When Kresner speaks of assessment, the contextual markers suggest evaluation for categorization."
Oh.
Julian's unease deepened. Categorization into what? The station's alarm blared before Hannah could answer. Julian's unit lit up with Commander Novak's voice, tense and urgent. "Hayes, get to security immediately. The Dravarians have breached the restricted laboratories." Julian found chaos in the propulsion lab. 3 security officers lay unconscious, and Dravarian delegates were downloading data from the main terminals. Kresner stood calmly in the center of the room. "What is the meaning of this?" Julian demanded, abandoning diplomatic niceties. "Efficiency," Kresner replied. "Your technology is primitive, but has interesting applications. We are cataloging it." Commander Novak arrived with armed security. "Step away from our systems," she ordered. "Your weapons are ineffective against us," Kresner stated, not as a threat, but as what he believed to be fact. "The assessment of your species is complete. You will be classified as developing aggressive. Standard protocol applies." Julian stepped between the humans and aliens. "Whatever misunderstanding has occurred, we can resolve this peacefully. That's why we're here." "Peace is inefficient for developing species," Kresner said. "Conflict accelerates evolution or eliminates weakness. The collective has determined this is universal law." The situation deteriorated in seconds. A security officer, nervous and untrained for first contact scenarios, fired a warning shot. The Dravarians responded with devastating efficiencies, small devices on their wrists, emitting energy pulses that incapacitated half the security team instantly. Julian watched in horror. As Kresner approached the main station control terminal, "What are you doing?" "Completing assessment," Kresner replied calmly. "Your species requires demonstration of power hierarchies to understand position." The station's lights flickered. Emergency alerts blared through every speaker. "They're accessing our defense systems," Commander Novak shouted. "Lock down all terminals." But it was too late. Julian watched helplessly as Kresner transmitted a signal to the Dravarian ships waiting beyond Mars. On the monitors, he saw the massive alien vessels moving into attack positions. Humanity's first. Diplomatic contact had just become humanity's first interstellar war. "Prepare your defenses," Kresner announced, his voice eerily calm. "The collective will observe how you respond. Determines your final classification." He turned all four eyes toward Julian. "If you survive, perhaps we will talk again." Dravarian delegation vanished in flashes of lightsome form of teleportation. Technology humans hadn't even theorized was possible. As alarms continued to sound throughout space station horizon, Julian realized with sickening clarity that everything had changed. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe. But their cosmic neighbors weren't interested in friendship. They were interested in domination. 6 weeks after the Horizon incident, Olivia Reeves hunched over her holographic display, analyzing Dravarian attack patterns. As Earth's foremost military strategist, she'd been summoned to the underground command center beneath Geneva, the moment. The alien ships began their systematic attacks on Earth's orbital defenses. "They're testing us," she murmured to General Weizhong, who stood beside her with arms crossed. "Probing our capabilities, learning our responses. Testing or not, they've destroyed 3 defense platforms and 2 lunar outposts," General Zhang replied, his weathered face grim. "We need solutions, not observations." Olivia zoomed in on footage from the most recent skirmish. "Look, here their shields fluctuate at 4.7 terahertz. And again, during this maneuver, it's a pattern. Across the world, humanity scrambled to respond to an enemy they barely understood. In Tokyo, engineer Tomas Nakamura hadn't slept in 3 days. His laboratory cluttered with prototypes and failed experiments. "The alien hull material absorbs conventional projectiles," he explained to the assembled military officials. "But this... He lifted a small device that glowed with faint blue energy. "This disrupts their shield harmonics. Limited range, but it works." "How many can you produce?" asked Admiral Diane Johnson. Tomas sighed. "With current resources, maybe 100. We need rare earth elements we don't have enough of." "What about the asteroid mining platforms?" Julian Hayes suggested from the back of the room. The diplomat looked haggard, the failure of first contact weighing heavily on him. Tomas brightened. "If we could get to them, yes. The belt has everything we need." "Getting there is the problem," Admiral Johnson said. "Dravarians control everything beyond lunar orbit. In orbit above Mars, the Dravarian fleet had established a blockade, cutting Earth off from its colonies and mining operations throughout the solar system. What had been humanity's first steps into their cosmic neighborhood now became isolated outposts, each fighting for survival. On the Mars colony, Governor Rachel Sullivan addressed the 3,000 colonists via emergency broadcast. "We are on our own for now," she announced, her voice steady, despite the fear everyone felt. "Earth cannot reach us, and we cannot reach Earth. But we will survive. We will resist." Back on Earth, Julian Hayes met with the United Earth Security Council. The faces around the table showed varying degrees of fear, determination, and anger. "The Dravarians underestimate us," Julian insisted. "During my brief interactions, I sensed arrogance of belief in their inherent superiority." "Justified arrogance," countered Secretary Chen. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours." "Technology isn't everything," Olivia Reeves interjected, entering the chamber with data tablets. "I've been analyzing their combat methods. The Dravarians fight like a species that hasn't faced a serious challenger in generations. Their tactics are efficient, but predictable. They lack creativity under pressure." She displayed footage from a recent skirmish where a damaged Earth fighter had performed an unexpected maneuver, confusing the Dravarian pursuit ships long enough for the human pilot to escape. We need to weaponize unpredictability, she continued. Human ingenuity is our advantage. In the laboratories of New Kenya, Dr. Emmanuel Assay worked with a team of geneticists, studying tissue samples from a fallen Dravarian recovered from a damaged scout ship. Their cellular structure reacts violently to copper, he reported. Even trace amounts disrupt their neural pathways. It's not lethal, but severely disorienting. This discovery led to Project Coppervale's desperate plan to create copper-based microparticle weapons that could disable Dravarian forces without destroying their technology, which humanity desperately needed to study. 3 months into the conflict, Earth had lost its orbital infrastructure, but maintained control of the planet's surface. The Dravarians seemed content to maintain their blockade rather than risk ground invasion, a tactical choice that puzzled military leaders until Julian Hayes offered insight. They're minimalists, he explained during a strategy session. During the station tours, they mentioned their homeworld as resource poor. They likely evolved conserving energy and materials. A ground invasion is resource-intensive, when blockade can achieve the same result over time. This revelation shifted Earth's strategy. If the Dravarians preferred efficiency over direct confrontation, perhaps humanity could use that preference. Against them, Tomas Nakamura completed the first prototype of the shield disruptor array, capable of creating a window through Dravarian defenses. Simultaneously, Olivia Reeves finalized Operation Scattershot, a multi-pronged attack plan designed to confuse the methodical Dravarian command structure. They think like a collective, she told the assembled military command. Their strength comes from coordination, but that creates vulnerability to chaos. As Earth prepared its first major counteroffensive, a transmission broke through the Dravarian jamming fields. It came from Proxima Centauri, humanity's first extrasolar colony and, apparently, the Dravarians' next target. They're diverting ships from the blockade, General Zhang announced, moving toward Proxima. Why? Julian wondered. It's a research outpost with minimal strategic value. Olivia's eyes widened as she reviewed the colony manifest. It's not the colony they want. It's what they're researching: quantum entanglement communications. If the Dravarians obtain that technology, they could coordinate their fleets instantaneously across interstellar distances, Admiral Johnson finished. We can't let that happen. The decision was unanimous. Earth would make its stand not just for survival, but for the fate of humanity's first interstellar colony. Operation Scattershot was reconfigured with a new objective: break the blockade and reach Proxima Centauri before the Dravarians could capture the quantum communication technology. As the mission preparations accelerated, Julian Hayes approached the prototype ship that would lead the desperate charge. I'm going with you, he told Captain Darius Singh, who would command the mission. I've studied them more than anyone. I might see something others miss. Singh nodded grimly. Welcome aboard the Defiance, Mr. Hayes. Let's hope we live to reach Proxima. Captain Darius Singh stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching as the last of Earth's united fleet assembled for the desperate push to Proxima Centauri. 27 ships all humanity could spare from planetary defense prepared to challenge the Dravarian blockade. Final preparations complete, Captain, reported Lieutenant Valentina Rossi, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. Shield disruptor array is at 94% efficiency, best we can do. Singh nodded. At 42? He'd spent his career commanding peacetime exploration vessels. Now, he led humanity's most critical military mission into the unknown. All ships, this is Captain Singh, he broadcast to the fleet. We know the mission. Break through, reach Proxima, defend the quantum entanglement facility at all costs. The Dravarians fight with precision, we fight with heart. Sing out. Julian Hayes stood at the rear of the bridge, studying the tactical displays. The Dravarian formation is standard, he noted. They don't expect us to challenge them. Good, Singh replied. Lieutenant Rossi, initiate Chaos Protocol. The Earth. Fleets scattered in seemingly random directions, each ship broadcasting contradictory signals and radiation signatures. The Dravarian blockade shifted in response, their methodical movements attempting to track multiple threats simultaneously. They're splitting their focus, Olivia Reeves observed from her position at the strategic command console. Exactly as predicted. The Defiance plunged forward, its experimental engines pushing human technology to its limits. 3 Dravarian vessels moved to intercept. Shield disruptor at full power, Rossi announced, firing window in 5, 4, ... A concentrated beam of energy struck the lead Dravarian ship, creating a momentary ripple in its defensive shields. The Defiance fired all weapons through the vulnerability, causing cascading explosions across the alien vessel. 1 down, cheered the weapons officer. But the victory was short-lived. The remaining Dravarian ships adjusted their shield frequencies. Rendering the disruptor temporarily useless, they adapt quickly, Julian observed. So do we, Singh countered. Execute Firefly protocol. Across the fleet, Earth's ships launched thousands of small drones, each barely larger than a human hand. The devices swarmed toward Dravarian vessels, sacrificing themselves in electromagnetic pulses that temporarily disrupted alien targeting systems. In the confusion, 7 Earth ships managed to slip past the blockade, including the Defiance. Remaining Earth vessels engaged in holding actions, drawing Dravarian attention. While the breakthrough group accelerated toward the jump point that would take them to Proxima Centauri, we've lost the Santiago and the Hypatia, Rossi reported grimly. Beijing and New Delhi are heavily damaged but continuing to engage. Singh's jaw tightened. They knew the mission. Make their sacrifice count. The journey to Proxima took 11 days at maximum sustainable speed. As they approached the system, long-range scans detected 5 Dravarian warships already in orbit around humanity's first extrasolar colony. We're too late, Julian whispered. No, Singh insisted. Scan the surface. Is the research facility intact? After tense moments, Rossi nodded. Energy signatures indicate it's operational. The colony is fighting back. On the colony's surface, Dr. Esther Donovan had transformed the quantum communications facility into a fortress. The 100 researchers and support staff, now armed with mining equipment repurposed as weapons, had barricaded themselves in the central laboratory. They want the technology intact, Esther told her colleagues as they reinforced doors with whatever materials they could find. That's our only advantage. When the Dravarians attempted to breach the facility, they encountered elaborate traps oxygen tanks converted to bombs. Industrial lasers repurposed as weapons, and most effectively, copper dust released through the ventilation system, causing disorientation among the alien forces. From orbit, Captain Singh devised a desperate plan. The Dravarians positioned their command ships at the center of their formation, he noted. Always protected, always coordinating. If we could disrupt that command ship, ... Olivia began. Exactly, Singh turned to his engineering officer. Can we modify our jump drives to create a micro-jump? Something precise enough to place us directly alongside their command vessel? The engineer's eyes widened. It's never been attempted at this scale, sir. The calculations alone. I can help with that, offered Dr. Benjamin Fletcher, a quantum physicist who had insisted on joining the mission. The principles are similar to our entanglement work. For 18 hours, as the battle raged around Proxima's orbit and on its surface, the Defiance's crew worked to modify their jump systems while evading Dravarian detection. The remaining Earth ships engaged in guerrilla tactics, striking quickly and retreating into the system's asteroid field. Modification complete, Fletcher finally announced. But Captain, this is a one-way journey. The drive will burn out after the jump. Singh nodded solemnly. Understood. All non-essential personnel to escape pods. He looked around at his bridge. Crew. Anyone who wishes to leave should do so now. What follows is strictly volunteer. Not a single officer moved from their station. Very well. Initiate micro-jump on my mark. The Defiance vanished from its hiding position behind Proximus Moon and reappeared. Instantaneously alongside the Dravarian command ship, so close that their defense fields interfered with each other. Shield disruptor at maximum. Beam penetrated the Dravarian vessel's suddenly vulnerable shields. The Defiance unleashed every weapon it possessed. Even as the alien ship's point defense systems tore into the human vessel, Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, Rossi reported, clinging to her console as the ship shuddered. Primary weapons offline. Ramming speed, Zing commanded quietly. The Defiance's engines flared brilliantly as the ship drove itself into the wounded alien vessel. The resulting explosion was visible from the colony's surface. With their command structure disrupted, the remaining Dravarian ships fell into disarray. The Earth fleet pressed its advantage, systematically targeting the suddenly uncoordinated alien vessels in the quantum communications facility. Esther Donovan felt the building shake as a Dravarian craft crashed nearby. "They're retreating," called out her assistant, watching through a makeshift periscope. "Earth ships are landing." 3 days later, as recovery efforts began, Julian Hayes stood in the partially destroyed laboratory, watching Esther and her team salvage their research. "You held out just long enough," he told her. "Your resistance gave us the time we needed." Esther brushed dust from a datapad. Wasn't just about buying time. "We completed the entanglement array." She held up a small device. "Instantaneous communication across any distance. We can coordinate Earth's defenses and all colonies simultaneously faster than the Dravarians can respond." For the first time since the conflict began, Julian felt something like hope. The battle for Proxima Centauri had cost hundreds of lives, including the heroic Captain Singh and much of the Defiance's crew. But humanity had secured the technology that might turn the tide of the war, as Julian prepared to return to Earth. With the precious quantum entanglement device, he stared up at the stars visible through a broken section of the facility's roof. Somewhere out there was the Dravarian homeworld. Now humanity had the means to find it. The battle for survival had evolved into something else, a fight, not just to exist, but to prevail. Ambassador Eleanor Wu stood in United Earth Government headquarters, watching the display as the Dravarian diplomatic vessel entered orbit. 15 months of bitter conflict had led to this moment. It's the first peaceful contact since the disastrous meeting on Space Station Horizon. "Are we sure this isn't a trap?" General Zhang asked, his distrust evident. "Our quantum sensors detect no weapons powering up," Tomas Nakamura replied. "And we've surrounded them with our new shield-penetrating missiles. They couldn't attack, if they wanted to." Eleanor straightened her formal attire, uniform that balanced diplomatic tradition with the military reality that Earth now lived in. At 58, she had spent decades negotiating Earth's internal conflicts. Now she would negotiate humanity's place among the stars. "The Dravarians respect strength," Julian Hayes reminded her. "Show no weakness, but also no unnecessary aggression." The alien delegation arrived at the Geneva facility with minimal ceremony. Kressner, the same representative who had triggered the war, led their group. His scales had dulled slightly, a sign of age or stress, xenobiologists suggested. Voice of the Terran Collective, Kressner addressed Eleanor, using a term that mirrored his own title. "The Dravarian hierarchy acknowledges your communication." Eleanor did not correct the misunderstanding of Earth's governmental structure. Let them think humanity operated as they did, provided tactical advantage. "We offered terms," she replied simply. "Does the Dravarian hierarchy accept them?" Kressner's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Julian had learned indicated calculation rather than emotion. "The hierarchy proposes modification," Kressner stated. "Withdrawal from your system in exchange for technological exchange rights?" Eleanor's expression remained impassive. "Clarify exchange rights. Access to your quantum entanglement communications," Kressner replied. "A technology the hierarchy finds unexpectedly advanced." The human delegation exchanged glances. This confirmed what they had suspected. Dravarians wanted the one technology humans possessed that surpassed their own capabilities. "Unacceptable," Eleanor responded. "Our terms stand unmodified." Kressner made the clicking sound that Julian recognized as contemplation. "The hierarchy will withdraw military presence from your system, but maintains right of civilian trade and diplomatic presence." This was progress more than Admiral Okafor had expected from the first meeting. Eleanor allowed herself a small nod. "We will consider diplomatic relations after complete military withdrawal," she countered. Future trade agreements will be negotiated separately. The negotiations continued for 3 tense days, while Dravarian ships remained positioned beyond Neptune, their weapons powered down as a show of good faith. Thomas Nakamura and his engineering teams worked frantically to complete analysis of the captured faster-than-light drive. If talks failed, humanity needed the capability to take the fight beyond their solar system. On the third day, Kressner requested a private meeting with Eleanor and Julian. "Your species was miscategorized," he stated without preamble. The initial assessment was flawed. Julian leaned forward. "How so?" "Developing aggressive species typically lack adaptive capacity," Kressner explained. "They fight with increasing desperation, but diminishing effectiveness. Humans demonstrated increasing effectiveness with time." Eleanor recognized the opportunity this presented. "And how does the hierarchy categorize us now?" "Uncertain," Kressner admitted a startling confession from a Dravarian. "Your technology development rate exceeds predictive models. Your tactical adaptability suggests higher classification." This was the opening Eleanor had hoped for. "Then perhaps the concept of classification itself is flawed," she suggested. "Perhaps species should be engaged as equals rather than categorized, as inferiors or superiors." Kressner's reaction was subtle, but unmistakably a slight bristling of scales that Julian interpreted as surprise or discomfort. "The hierarchy has existed for 7,000 years, Kressner stated. "Its methods are proven effective. Effective for expansion," Eleanor noted. "But at what cost? How many species have been unnecessarily destroyed? How much potential knowledge and cooperation lost?" The Dravarian was silent for several moments. "This perspective is ... unfamiliar." In orbit above Earth, Admiral O'Caffer's fleet maintained battle readiness. But across the solar system, a more profound demonstration of human resilience was unfolding. The Mars colony had not only recovered but expanded. The Proxima Centauri research facility was developing next-generation quantum technologies. Asteroid mining operations had resumed with enhanced efficiency using adapted Dravarian techniques. On the fourth day, the breakthrough came. The Dravarian hierarchy accepted modified terms: complete military withdrawal, limited diplomatic relations, and most significantly recognition of all human-settled territories as sovereign space. The hierarchy acknowledges the Sol system and Proxima Centauri as Terran territory, Kressner announced formally. Non-aggression between our peoples is established. As the Dravarian delegation prepared to depart, Julian had one final question for Kressner. "Why did you attack us in the first place? What threat did we pose?" Kressner's response was chillingly matter-of-fact. "You posed no threat." Assessment indicated a 94% probability that humanity would accept subordinate status after demonstration of superior force. This pattern has held true across 43 previous species contacts. "And the other 7%? Eleanor asked. "Did not survive." Kressner stated simply, "You are the first exception in the hierarchy's history." As the Dravarian ships withdrew from the solar system in the following weeks, humanity faced a profound question: what next? The war had unified Earth as never before. Technology had advanced decades beyond pre-war levels. Humanity had secured its home system and its first extrasolar colony. In a historic session of the United Earth government, Admiral O'Caffer presented a vision that would reshape human destiny. "The Dravarians will not be the only advanced species we encounter," he told the assembled leaders. "Some may be peaceful, others hostile. But all will respect strength, unity, and determination qualities humanity has demonstrated in abundance." His proposal was bold: transform the United Earth government into the Terran Empire, an empire of conquest, but of protection and exploration. Human colonies would expand outward with the security of knowing Earth stood ready to defend them. Eleanor Wu, appointed as the first Imperial Diplomatic Corps' director, established protocols for future first contact scenarios that prioritized peaceful engagement while maintaining vigilant defense. Thomas Nakamura led the newly formed Imperial Science Academy, where captured Dravarian technology was fully integrated with human innovation to create the first true Terran starships. Julian Hayes, who whose diplomatic career had begun and ended with the Dravarians, found new purpose writing the Terran Charter, a document establishing the principles of the emerging empire: defense of human settlements, respect for sentient rights, and advancement of knowledge. Farah Ibrahim's strike teams evolved into the Imperial Vanguard elite forces trained to operate deep in unexplored space, the first line of both diplomacy and defense. 1 year after the peace agreement, the first true Terran fleet assembled. In Earth orbit, 10 ships of unprecedented capability, led by the flagship Horizon, named in remembrance of where the conflict began. Their mission: establish contact with other species, subjugated by the Dravarian hierarchy, and offer alliance rather than domination. Admiral Okafor, standing on the Horizon's bridge before departure, addressed the crew with words that would become the motto of the Terran Empire: "We came to the stars as survivors. We return as liberators." As the ships engaged their faster-than-light drives and vanished into the depths of space, humanity's transformation was complete. From a single-planet species fighting for survival to an interstellar power reaching outward with purpose and determination. The Terran Empire was born not from conquest, but from resistance, forged in the crucible of humanity's first galactic war, and destined to reshape the stars themselves.